never ceases to amaze me the amount of passion that comes out of people when getting into a debate about the flat earth. And that makes me a little bit nervous because I understand when I was on my descent down the rabbit hole at the beginning, I came across a 4-hour-long video by Eric Dubay, and boom, I was a flat earth theory fanatic pushing it on everyone that I knew. Thankfully now I've reached a higher understanding of the world and truth. There's always a truth. And so when it comes to people turning on people, then that's when it becomes false. So when it becomes negative. And usually if something has that effect, we must question it. So that is what I'm setting out to do, essentially. Because there's a lot of vulnerable people out there who've just recently experienced spiritual awakening, and it's a dangerous place to be because there's a hell of a lot of false teachers, false prophets, false lessons, and it's all very well put across and all very well relatable. A lot of it you can't really argue with. However, I'm beginning to notice something within life. It's almost like a backlash, if you will. So for example, if someone acts in a certain way, there'll be things that will manifest themselves. For example, they may use a corporate logo. They may have no prior knowledge of the certain symbolism behind the logo, but it's a natural formation that comes up within certain things, and it's the universe's way of trying to reveal the truth. I hope that makes sense, because it's quite good really, because for example, words. The words always give away the agenda. Seriously. And so I thought it was an ideal time to look up the word flat. Lo and behold, to be flat is to not be lively or interesting. To be flat is when it's no longer fizzy. For example, when we've got a fizzy drink and then it's flat. It's lacking in oxygen, life. Similarly with a battery, when we've used up a battery's charge, it's now flat. If we get a puncture in our tyre, it's now flat. Okay? It's firm and it's definite. It is music. It is music below the true pitch of music. Does that sound familiar? It's of a note, a semitone lower than a specified note, so as to be flat. Completely, absolutely. It's also a set of rooms within a larger building forming a home. In regards to music, it's a sign indicating a note lowered by a semitone. When something's flat out, it's subconscious, isn't it? If we're flat out, we're away with the stars, you know? No one's getting through. Something's flattened, it's usually dead. It's horizontal, even, smooth, plain. Monotonous, boring, dull, tedious, uninteresting, unexciting. Flat out refusal. Outright, direct, firm. Sorry, my apologies. The opposite of flat is outright, direct, firm, definite, positive, explicit, categorical. Do you get the idea? Do we really want to be living in a world like that? Think about it. Sometimes the symbolism within things speaks for itself, gives away the agendas. It's not that they're rubbing it in our faces. It's karma. Truth is always there. You've just got to accept it, take responsibility for it, and acknowledge it, and then share it. Okay? Okay. So, the horizon is not curved is one of the go-to proofs for flat earthers, and yes, it is definitely valid because we can all agree upon observation that the earth does appear to be flat. However, in conjunction with that is the argument that the earth has an average diameter of 12,742 kilometres. So, in other words, imagine an ant sitting on a bumpy moss-covered ball that's 1,000 diameters or metres. It wouldn't be able to make out any curves. Do you understand? I hope so. So the whole science behind the flat earth theory is that we originally think that we are rotating around the sun, and therefore that gives us light and day, okay? Flat earth theorists think that the sun and the moon simultaneously rotate around us, and that's why it's hotter in some countries and colder in others, because the sun has only got one cycle and therefore it only reaches the right amount of the planet. And that explains why Antarctica doesn't experience night. So, you know, I kind of agree with that, but it doesn't necessarily make it flat. Other things are stationary, but really the world is spinning around 1,600 kilometres per hour. And if that's so, then why aren't we flying around? I mean, you know, I don't feel like I'm flying around, do you? But we really are, because if you think about a plane and how it feels, so you have takeoff and then you get to a certain point and then the light goes off and you can take your seatbelt off and walk around the plane, and after a while you begin to not realise that you're moving so fast and that you're so high above ground. Well, that's exactly the way the earth works when it spins. It's natural. We don't feel it because it's natural. However, if a plane was to suddenly descend downwards very fast, if the engines were to fail, you'd feel it. And if the world was to stop spinning, we'd certainly feel it. So in other words, in order to stay grounded, the earth has to carry on spinning. And in order to stay in flight, the plane's engines have to continue to run. And that is that. And the most obvious proof that the world is not flat is to simply look at an image of Earth from space. And in most realms of reality, photographic evidence is fairly inadmissible. However, faced with this evidence, a surprising number of people argue Well, who says it's not doctored? But if that's the case, then NASA presumably spends all of its multi-billion-dollar budget on thousands of illustrators and graphic designers. Another argument is that my senses tell me so. This is called the Zetetic method, and it's a fundamental cornerstone of the flat earth mindset. I mean, I've been there myself, guys. Realise. I don't feel like I'm spinning. It don't look like it's round to me. You know, it's just not true. It doesn't take much to prove that your senses can't always be trusted. I mean, take a look at an optical illusion. We know many things exist beyond our own observations and experience. A colour-blind person might perceive a flower to be green, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is within a wider sense of external reality. Anyway, I think I've said enough now. I've got a sore throat. Yeah, I really urge anyone that's watching to just do your own investigation. Don't listen to other people's theories and take their word for it. Find the truth. It is accessible and it is there. Find it. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you soon.